Take a deep breath and breathe in the scent of pencil shavings and gym socks and pass a note in class to your BFF without your teacher seeing. It's time for another book series from the Scholastic Book Fair of the 80s and 90s. As always, this video contains plot spoilers and is aimed at adult readers, so this is not really aimed at children. But yeah, this is Sleepover Friends series, number 16, Kate's Crush by Susan Saunders. This time I found a random and very beaten up pre-loved copy of this one. This book came out in September of 1989. And I think this one may not be a typical example of the series because it's set at a dude ranch, as they used to be called. I wonder if they still exist? Anybody spend any time at a dude ranch for dudes? Yeah, so this one's not set in the normal location for the series. And there's a little bit of a sort of mystery theme slightly. Yeah, so from vague memory and a little bit of Googling, the stories in this series usually take place in the typical sort of American suburbia that a lot of these series are set in, sort of Everytown America kind of thing. So this series is aimed at slightly younger readers. With these book series, there seem to be teen, sort of tween age range, and then like a little sister age, loosely speaking. So you usually sort of get like I guess like sort of 12, 13-year-olds. And then this series, the characters are 11. So it's aimed at people, children slightly younger than that. In this book series, the adventures are quite low stakes. And the four main characters are girls who are in grade 5 and growing up in a suburb called Riverhurst. Their main interest is sleepovers, which I think is really lovely. Sleepovers were the most exciting thing when I was growing up, so this is super cute to me. There are 4 girls in the series: Kate, Stephanie, Patty, and Lauren, which are the most 80s kids' names. So now I'm kind of excited for this series. Kind of piqued my interest. Essentially, they have sleepovers at each other's places every week, and they do girly sleepover stuff, like talk about boys, do makeovers. It's slightly cringe, girly girl stuff, but this was a fairly popular series. It ran to only about 40 books, so not as big as some of the other series that ran into over 100. But so many people remember loving this series when they spot the book covers, even though anecdotally they don't really remember anything that happened in the series. And I'm one of those people. I remember this cover design so well, but I didn't remember anything about the series. I was just kind of like, yeah, they're like friends and they have sleepovers. So here's the simplistic lowdown on our girls. They're all about 11 approximately. Kate loves movies, hates sports. Lauren loves sports. Stephanie's personality is city. She only wears red, black, and white. And Patty is the shy one. She lived in the city too, but she's not defined by it, which is unusual in these series. If somebody is from the city in this kind of era, they're always like quirky and like loved the fast-paced life. It was like your personality was just city girl. I looked up the author Susan Saunders and couldn't find that much about her. Her name is on a few of these series, like Neptune Adventures, Bad News Bunny, and some horse-themed books. I'm not sure if it's a pseudonym. According to a quick Google search, she wrote a book about menopause in 2023. I'm not 100% sure it's the same author, but it seems to be. So I think it might be the same person, which is cool. Nice long-running career there. So let's take a closer look at our book. The cover design is super cute on this series. The cover is styled to look like a bed with the series title Sleepover Friends printed on the pillow, with some little stars, very 80s. Pastel colors on these books, also very 80s. And then we have the image on the cover, which is wild. We have quintessential 80s hairstyles, perms, scrunchies, side ponytails, lots of volume. You can't really see the girl's clothes that much on this particular cover, so can't really make fun of the style much, except that check out this rad dude. The denim jacket, the popped collar, and that haircut that you still see, that faded, plastered on your cheapest local barbershop wall type of a haircut. This guy is cool. So then we have this blonde girl, presumably Kate, who looks like she may be having an aneurysm while one of her friends pinches her cheeks. I guess that's 80s book cover language for this girl has a crush. So this should be interesting. Lastly, we have a little saddle in the foreground. As the tagline tells us, there's more to this dude ranch than horses. So this small hint at equestrianism lets us know that horses are there, but they're not as important as boys because the boy is way bigger than the saddle. And actually, that's an English saddle, not a Western one. And that's a tiny saddle. So it kind of was making me laugh. I'm like, that the pony that would take that saddle would be very, very small, which is cute. So you're unlikely to find that on a dude ranch, but I mean, that's not really the point, is it? So let's dive in. Quote, Nana loves it. She goes every year, Stephanie Green was saying. It's the Lost Valley Dude Ranch in Arizona. Nana wants to take all 4 of us with her during the end of term break. Nana is what Stephanie calls her grandmother, Mrs. Bricker. So that kind of tells you what's going to happen in the book, which I kind of like. I love when they just dive right in. I guess in a book that's only, what is this, just 100 pages or something? Can you hear that crackling paper? 87 pages. It's just a little, I was going to say it's a baby one, but that's, there are shorter books than this. So, yeah. So our story is narrated by Lauren. The 4 girls are having a sleepover at Kate's, and Stephanie's grandmother is planning on taking them all on a trip to a dude ranch. Also, they're all eating Chinese, and first I thought, man, I have not had Chinese food in a while. And then I realized they're eating it in Kate's bedroom, which was a big no-no in my house growing up. We were not allowed to eat in our bedrooms, and I'm pretty sure, just from memory, I think none of my friends were doing that or allowed to do that. Would you be allowed to do that when you were a kid? I'm super curious. Like, if you had a sleepover, would you all like eat in your room or what? And also, I want to know what you normally order when you get Chinese takeout. I'm super curious. They got a sweet and sour shrimp and barbecue spare rib, in case you were curious. Yeah, so Lauren's excited about all the activities, but she says she's not sure if her parents can afford to pay for flights, since the grandmother character is only paying for their accommodation, basically. But really, she's afraid of flying, which is relatable because so am I. Kate isn't fooled by Lauren's sort of hedging. She guesses immediately that she's worried about flying. So she sort of asks her, have you been on a plane before? And Lauren says she has. The wheels on the plane folded up and came down just like they were supposed to. Kate went on, one blonde eyebrow raised. The wings didn't fall off, nothing caught on fire. No, I just had the feeling we were going to drop like a stone the whole time. That's all, I replied glumly. You're letting your imagination run away with you again, Kate said. Be logical. Everybody knows it's 1,000 times safer to travel in a plane than in a car. Sometimes Kate is so logical, it's maddening. So people always say the exact same thing as though they can talk you out of your fear of flying. Anytime I tell someone like I don't like flying, I get like scared, I get really uncomfortable. You can't talk people out of the things they're afraid of. Like, that's not how fear works. Obviously, Kate is a child, she doesn't know this. It's not like the end of the world, but thanks, Kate, for your contribution to the conversation there. Stephanie is excited to get away from the deep snow they've been having, which actually sounds really pretty. And Kate is excited that Jenny Carlin, who is their arch nemesis, will be jealous. So Kate is kind of intense. Apparently, Lauren and Jenny once both liked the same boy, so there's some grade school gossip for you. The girls say they won't go without Lauren, which sounds like peer pressure when I say it now, but in context, it's sort of more meant in a friendly, supportive way. That is until Kate shames Lauren when she says she'll go. So basically, Lauren is like, I'll go, but I'm going to pack a Lucky Charm. And, Kate kind of takes umbrage at this because good luck charms are superstitious. And it's not okay to have superstitions, apparently, according to Kate. She's a woman with opinions. Not a woman, she's 11, but anyway. So then we get some backstory. And this is basically that sort of first chapter exposition part of the book, where, we get this in every book in this series. In these types of series, they sort of go back, and usually they're basically the same across every novel in the series. But it's actually pretty cute. Lauren and Kate have been best friends since they were babies. They're neighbors. And the book talks about how they've always stayed over at each other's houses and over the years tried out different sleepover snack recipes. I loved this. I remember cooking with my best friend who lived on my street too and having sleepovers. So that was a nice memory. They're opposites. Hang on a sec. My cat has decided to join us. By join us, I mean basically just start playing with things in the room. And now he's deeply offended that he wasn't allowed to do that. Thanks, Grim, for your contribution. So Lauren is messy and sporty and disorganized. She's sort of tall, dark hair, and then Kate is logical, loves to be inside watching movies, and is very, very logical. She's short and fair-haired, and they never fight except one time when Stephanie moved to town. Stephanie loves dance and fashion, and she has dark, curly hair. And then when they sort of met, Kate and Stephanie really didn't like each other at first, and they still kind of clash. But when Patty moved to town and joined their class, it kind of all worked out. Patty is shy and quiet, but Stephanie already knew her from the city. So when Patty joined them and kind of became friends, it all sort of evened out. And I think that's really cute. That's such a lovely little backstory. Anyway, they finished eating. So they all open their fortune cookies. I love fortune cookies, which Kate frowns upon because fortune cookies are fun and she hates fun. I'm kidding. Kate broke hers open and read the slip of paper. A refreshing change is in your future. Going to Lost Valley Dude Ranch? Stephanie suggested. These things are so dumb, Kate said. There's bound to be a change sometime in my future. After all, I'm only 11. Mine says the color green will be important to you, Patty giggled. I look awful in green. What does yours say, Stephanie? Friends will turn to you in affairs of the heart, Stephanie read slowly. Hey, that's true. Just last week, Sally Mason, she's another girl in our class, asked me to tell Charlie Garner, a boy in 5C, that she liked him, and he said, Kate groaned, she's always after Stephanie for thinking about boys so much. What does your cookie say, Lauren? Kate said. You can solve your problem if you exert yourself, I read. I think you wrote this one, Kate. So I liked this. Fortune cookies are fun, and it's a little bit of foreshadowing. And for real, all their fortune cookies really could mean anything, which I kind of like because that's what fortune cookies are like. They're very vague, which is kind of part of the fun. Anyway, Lauren agrees to go, and 3 weeks later, they're on the last leg of their flight on one of those tiny planes. I don't think I've ever been on one of those little planes like that, rather than the larger commercial type ones, if you know what I mean. So they're on one of those planes where I think it flies about 10 people or something. Lauren is mostly doing okay, and we get some description of Lost Valley, Pearl River, and the desert landscape as they're flying over, which, I mean, you know what a desert looks like, but it sets the scene. The book makes it sound like they were in the plane for about 15 minutes, which is funny. It made me think of that kind of criticism of Taylor Swift using her plane to get everywhere, because it just seems like they just kind of get in it and then it's time to get out again, but they've arrived. Our safe trip was undoubtedly the work of the rabbit's foot and your lucky coin, Kate said with a wry smile. Thanks for bringing that up, Kate. They're welcomed by the most realistic, rootinest, tootinest cowboy in the West. He has a 10-gallon hat. And and he's brought this little wagon to take their luggage. Like a horse-drawn wagon. And his name is Buck Walters. Real authentic, like. No shade. That kind of real sort of Western vibe would make me deeply happy if I was out on a ranch like this, especially like, you know, a sort of touristy, fun kind of one that you can stay on like that. But it was just funny the way he's written in this scene with this drooping moustache, and his character is opened with this heavily idiosyncratic cowboy vocabulary. Anyway, they hop in the wagon and head to the ranch. I feel as though we're in a Western movie, Patty said as the wagon rolled along the winding dirt road, the horses' harnesses jingling. The kind of Western where the family's going to town to do their shopping for the first time in 6 months. How depressing, Stephanie put in, staring down the dark, empty road. She practically lives at the mall in Riverhurst. It does look kind of deserted. On the way there, Buck mentions there's a boy about their age staying at the ranch, presumably the Fonz from the front cover. A real boy? All the way out here? Stephanie exclaimed to Kate, Patty, and me. I hope he's cute. Yeah, Stephanie, a real boy. They have them outside the suburbs now, too. Kate just rolls her eyes at this because it bothers her intensely that Stephanie likes boys. You can speculate on why she might have a problem about that if you like. They reach the cabin and it sounds cute. The porch light was on. This is a quote. The porch light was on so we could see that the cabin itself was made of thick grey logs. It was 1 story tall and had little square windows, a high peaked roof, and smoke curling out of the chimney. On the screened-in porch next to the front door was a stack of firewood. So it has a fireplace, a clawfoot tub, and a view of the mountains. Sounds really cute. Nana has to sleep on a pull-out couch because there's only there's 1 bedroom and it's got 4 bunks in it, which I just thought was really unrealistic. No adult woman wants to sleep on one of those awful pull-out couches, especially the older ones. They're so uncomfortable. Actually, no one of any gender, of any sense, wants to sleep on one of those. So it seems like an odd choice since she made the booking herself. Like, you would think that. Anyway. It's supper time, so they hop back in the wagon to head to the lodge, which is where meals are served. But why is it so far away that they need to take the wagon there? The layout of the ranch and the cabins and stuff is described. The lodge is described, lots of logs. We're a third of the way in, and it feels like it's been a lot of descriptions of rooms and planes. I was promised boys, horses, and makeovers. So they head into the lodge, they go into the dining room where each boring adult guest is introduced and then sort of never heard of again in the book. And then they meet the Foleys. And this is their grandson, Keith. Mrs. Franklin went on. Keith's interested in fossils. That's why he's come to Lost Valley. We've got plenty of them. I bet he'd like to tell you all about it after dinner. Yeah, so he's into fossils and ignoring them. He doesn't respond or even look at them when they're introduced. And so the girls and their grandmother take a different table to sit at because his behavior is a bit weird. No way I'm sitting close to him, I murmured as Mrs. Franklin pulled out our chairs. Keith glared at us out of the corner of his eye. Me neither, Stephanie said in a low voice. If looks could kill, we'd be hanging up on that wall next to the bear and the buffalo. So this lodge has the same decorator as Gaston, but the book lets us know that there's no longer hunting there. So I guess that's kind of to appease children, sort of not, get them not thinking about shooting animals. Meanwhile, Kate is not put off by Keith's clear dislike. They eat dinner, and while Keith's grandparents are friendly, Keith is definitely not. They talk about going riding in the morning, and the Foleys encourage Keith to join them, but he sighs dramatically and walks out of the room. It's so rude. I wish I could figure out what's going on with him, Patty said, sliding into her chair. He's a real mystery man, which makes him kind of interesting. I knew what she meant. In spite of myself, I wanted to know what Keith's story was too. Why wouldn't he talk or eat? Did he just hate girls or what? They hear coyotes on their walk back to the cabin, and they speculate on what Keith's deal is. The next morning, Buck wakes them up early. His dialogue is just normal now, and I'm disappointed. But he is wearing chaps. He wants to know if they want to watch him or, him and some other people break in a horse after breakfast. And I'm a little bit curious about how this breaking in is going to be written. If you've ever read horse books, especially older ones, there are some truly awful scenes of horses being broken in literature and in real life. Let's just not dwell on that right now. The girls go to eat breakfast, and Keith walks in his archaeological gear. Lauren tells us he's pretty cute. He sees them and scowls and leaves the room. They speculate on if he hates them personally or what. Yeah, so earlier, there's this quote that I found interesting. Maybe he doesn't talk because he has an odd voice, Patty said softly as we walked down the steps outside. Yeah, high and stuttery, Stephanie said. Like Porky Pig or something. All of us started giggling. Perhaps he's just shy, Stephanie, Nana said to her granddaughter. I'm finding this pretty funny. These girls are 11 and they're already like, he hates me and his bad attitude and rudeness make him mysterious. I must know more about him. I'm like, I don't know. It just kind of reminds me of the sort of modern dating stories, I guess. Like, I can change him. I can fix him. Like, as if he's sort of more interesting because he's a rude jerk, basically. Anyway. So they go to see the horse being broken, which is just a cowboy being bucked off a horse. It's more like a rodeo event than anything practical, but it's not distressing the way it's written, which is nice. It's kind of weird though. Then they're led into the barn and just handed horses to lead off and tack up, and that sounds like a recipe for absolute disaster. But Kate is oddly quiet and not judging anyone for a hot minute, so that's something. We get a description of grooming and how to handle horses who act up. What do you do? Stephanie asked. Yell at the horse or jerk the reins to get his attention. You have to show him who's boss, Buck advised. Yeah, don't do that. That's not a great plan. Don't do that. Yeah, I mean, it's a funny scene. Like, some of the facts or the bits they talk about are right, and then some are not quite right. And none of the girls are wearing helmets, which, I mean, that Western riding can be like that. Helmets are not worn as much, but it just, it makes me uncomfortable, people not wearing helmets while riding a horse. Yeah, I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter. It's a book for kids, and, what am I trying to say? I feel like, as somebody that rides and is interested in horses, I always find it interesting to see. Sometimes I'll be watching a movie or reading a book and it's like they get something really inaccurate and it's more just funny. Like, I think it doesn't really matter in some ways getting every little detail right because it's not a textbook. But then there are things like, the not wearing helmets or some of the advice of like how to handle horses where I'm like, oh, I would hate a kid to read that and then not wear a helmet or something, or do something dangerous, Anyway, that's kind of beside the point, but we'll move on. Amusingly, Kate, who was so smug earlier about people being afraid of flying, I think she's afraid of riding. She hops down off her horse. So she manages to kind of mount up and head into the ring, but then that's it. Kate's face looked as pale as Pearl River. I'm getting a headache, she said, frowning a little in the bright sunlight. It's probably an allergy, she added. What's the matter? Stephanie and Patty had turned their horses around and ridden back. Kate's allergic to something, I replied. I think I'll go back to the cabin. So she hops down. The girls are cute. They're like, do you want us to come with you? And then Kate's like, no, it's fine. Finish your lessons. She just sort of goes off by herself. I think that's nice. Like that kind of solidarity of like, you know, like, does she want her to go with them? They'd give up their riding lesson for her. I think that's nice. But she is out of there. They have a riding lesson and we get some description of Western riding. It's kind of fun and interesting. I would have been into reading that as a kid, but it's really not that exciting to read now, plot-wise. Like nothing really happens. It just feels very descriptive. They plan on going to the river later and they head off to check on Kate, but she's not in the cabin. She's at the lodge and she rushes out to meet them when she hears them coming. Her cheeks are all red. She doesn't stay with them. She goes back to the cabin and they see that Keith is inside. Well. When they walk in, Keith throws his book down and runs away, but they see that Kate's sweater is there right next to where he was sitting. The girls wonder why Kate is sneaking around, lying about allergies and headaches, and not confiding in them if she likes Keith. It's a bit weird. I guess it's also sort of implied that she wasn't afraid of horses, but was just into this guy and wanted to catch him alone. So, They're good friends, though. We always help each other out, don't we? Stephanie rushed on. Kate's going to need all the help she can get with this one. Remember, friends will turn to you in affairs of the heart, she quoted from her fortune cookie with a satisfied smile. Kate hasn't really turned to us, I said doubtfully. Shh, Patty warned. Someone's coming. Yeah, it's just Mrs. Franklin, the owner of the ranch, bringing them cookies or something good to eat like that. And I don't know, I like that little moment. They just care about their friend and their first thought is wanting to help her, not to judge or take Kate's behavior sort of personally. And I think that's actually really nice. They have some iced tea and the adults come back from their hike asking how their day was. And the girls cover for Kate and use her story about the headache when Nana asks where she is. And Stephanie also tells Mrs. Foley that they're going to the river later and that there will be fossils, creating a situation where Kate and Keith can see each other. I think it's kind of cute and it's nice of Stephanie. Kate picks on her for being boy crazy and they didn't used to get along. So I feel like that's actually a really nice friend move. She thinks that she's helping, you know. So yeah, and we learned that the trip was meant to help Keith forget his troubles. So there's a little intrigue. I wonder what troubles he has, Patty said. She's very soft-hearted. Besides some major personality flaws, Stephanie muttered. Maybe he should be brought out of himself a little, Patty said. Yeah, a little sick burn there from Stephanie. Is he going to be mad when he finds out that there's not a lot of fossils when you go on a boating trip? Well, no, because he refuses to go with them, of course. Nana brings her camera on the inflatable raft, which I was like, you know, that doesn't seem like a great idea. And Mr. Kessler is with her. A little romance in the air, perhaps. They head down the river and they spot the Foleys, with Keith immediately hiding behind a tree. And then Kate starts blushing when Stephanie asks her what he's like, hinting very subtly, we can tell that Stephanie is a very subtle person, that she knows they were hanging out earlier. Kate denies it. They stop for lunch and their guide points out an area where there are loads of fossils, way like high up in the canyon. So not down in the river then. Stephanie asks if they can ride out there later on a trail ride and hints at Nana to sort of ask the Foleys. So she's trying to set up Kate and Keith, but the others think she might be overdoing it a little. I mean, I agree. She's being a little bit too much. But I feel like it's sort of written to be that maybe it's coming from the right place. Yeah. So later, they're on this little islandy thing in the stream and having a little picnic. But when they go to leave, the boat motor won't start, so they have to wait for someone to come find them. It gets dark, and at first it's spooky, but then they light a fire and have a snack and a little sing-along, and it's pretty cute and cozy. But then they see something that looks like fireflies just outside the glow of the fire. And apparently it's just some harmless tarantula's eyes reflecting the firelight and drawn to the flames. And there are loads of them, like 30, something like that. This is why I don't go camping. Stuff like this happens. Like, why is this book for children suddenly a horror story? Anyway, 3 of the girls run and go and sit in the boat for safety. Not Kate, though. She is too logical for that. I'm going to strangle Kate for being so logical, Stephanie said, shivering. I knew exactly what she meant. Sometimes Kate's mind over matter attitude can be positively infuriating. In my opinion, Kate should be on some kind of watch list. I'm kidding. I just mean it. You know, I don't... Just being that chill about that many spiders is that's not normal. If you're, like, not afraid of spiders, that is a wonderful thing, and I am happy for you, because I'm terrified of them. And now you know about 2 of my fears, flying and spiders. So the ranch sends a boat to come rescue them, and Keith has joined the rescue party. And Stephanie loves this. She thinks it's super romantic and asks if Kate wants to ride in the same boat as Keith. Stephanie, your subtlety knows no bounds. The next day at their riding lesson, they're all tacked up and mounted up, and then Kate gets another headache and hops down and just leaves. A second later, the girls see Keith go by and they call out to him, telling him Kate is around somewhere and knows where there are some good fossils. Oh my God. I actually feel bad for Kate at this point. Like, they're not subtle. It's a lot. And then the girls go for a gallop around the ring with no helmets and after one riding lesson. Stephanie feels like they can't go on the trail ride that they are planning if Kate doesn't go with them. But she thinks if she can just get Keith to go, it will be fine. I think Kate's afraid of horses and hiding it. But the girls think that she wants to spend time with Keith without them. So when Stephanie brings up Keith later that day, some people have more important things on their mind than boys, Stephanie Green, Kate hissed. So would you do me a favor and pour Keith Foley too and knock it off? I looked over at Patty and sighed. This is getting to sound a lot like the old days, and I don't mean the good old days, I whispered. But Kate wasn't finished. If you're such an expert on romance, she whispered crossly, why don't you recognize it when it's right under your nose? Then she stood up and stalked away from the table without even waiting for dessert. Well, excuse me, Stephanie muttered. She sulked for a minute. Then her curiosity won over her temper. What did she mean anyway, right under my nose? I was wondering myself, but I didn't have an answer. So, what was Kate referring to? Intrigue. They go for a ride later, and Kate goes hiking with Nana and Mr. Kessler instead. Later that night, Lauren wakes up and sees Kate sneaking out of the cabin. She decides to follow her friend, thinking she's meeting Keith, and trails her to the barn, where she catches Kate talking to a horse. Kate admits the headaches were fake. She's afraid of horses, which is fair. Horses are gigantic. Lauren is shocked by this turn of events. Fearless Kate, lover of horror movies, is afraid of something. Actually, this is a nice plot idea, I think. The lesson that everyone, even logical and seemingly fearless people, have something that they're afraid of. And it's about bravery in life and not being perfect and not like having no feelings or having no fear of anything. And I think that's a good message. Anyway, 2 things happen. Lauren trips and falls underneath the horse, who could step on her and crush her at any moment. But this is a very chill ranch horse, so she just keeps on snacking. And so that kind of convinces Kate that the horse is sort of safer than she thinks, and it kind of helps her feel a little bit better about things. And secondly, Kate hands Lauren something she took out of her bag earlier. It's her lucky coin. So I guess she does believe in superstition a little bit. So the kid is human after all. They stay in the barn since it's not long till dawn, and Kate gets a little more used to the horse she's supposed to be riding. They decide to tell the girls later that Kate is afraid of horses, so they're going to share, not keep secrets, and that she does not have a crush on Keith. So Stephanie takes it well and is happy that Kate will start joining them on riding. And she also sees Keith get a riding lesson. The whole gang head out later on a trail ride, all of the guests. And the girls are wondering what Keith's deal is still, so we still don't know. Kate tells them she knows, but can't tell them, which is one of the most irritating things somebody can do, but it's on brand for Kate. And Stephanie, in her unassuming, non-pushy way, is determined to corner Keith and demand answers. Oh my God. The trail is beautiful. They see lots of things. And then we find out Keith's big secret. So I was expecting, some of these books could have some pretty intense, backstories and stuff like that. But it's just that he has braces and is embarrassed. That's it. He was getting teased at school about it. So, fair dues that he feels weird and shy. Like, I get that. That's fine. But being rude and literally like running away from people, that's kind of a bit much, in my opinion. Anyway, since he smiled at Patty and his braces showed, he's apparently cured, just like that. Or maybe because she didn't scream and run off in terror into the woods or something. He's cured, I don't know, but it's fine. He and Patty like each other, and the girls notice that Nana and Mr. Kessler are holding hands. So love is in the air, mystery solved. Stephanie decides to be a bit more chill when people like each other, which is probably for the best. And yeah, they all head home, and the book ends with Sleepover Friends Forever, which is super cute. So that's Sleepover Friends number 16. And at the back of the book, we have our usual advertisements, for the series. But there was also this cute competition that was running when this book came out in 1989. And you have to answer what's your favorite thing to do at a sleepover party, and you pick one. Eating, makeovers, cooking, truth or dare, telling ghost stories, or you could pick another one. I just thought that was cute. And you can win a set of 5 night shirts. They're pretty cute. They're sort of like pullover sweater things, but like long. And they say Sleepover Friends on them. I think that's really cute. I wonder if I would have thought that was cool when I was a kid. 200 winners. Yeah, so I like that. I think some of these little competitions and things in the back are fun. Of course, there is a advertisement for the Babysitters Club with a little bubble saying, collect them all, which people did. And then the other one that's in here, there's an ad for the Gymnast series. I don't think I ever read one of these, but I remember the book covers for those as well. I haven't come across any in my travels so far. I have some other ones to share with you though, but it's funny how some of them really stick in your mind. I do remember a lot of girls were into gymnastics. I think kids still are. And so that was one of the book series. So back to our story, Sleepover Friends, Kate's crush. I liked how the characters were a bit overwritten in this series. They're sort of kind of one note, but I don't think that would have bothered me as a child reader. It's just funny to read it now as an adult. Like, Stephanie isn't just outgoing, she's outgoing into everyone's business. Or Kate isn't just kind of smug, she's overbearing in every single scene. And I don't know, I guess that's kind of in a different book series, or as an adult reader, that would maybe annoy me. But I just thought it was, I don't know. I just kind of liked that. It was fun when I was reading it to be like, these people are intense. Everyone is intense. I think the little dramas and intrigues were fun. It's a nice low stakes plot, and I think the friendship between the friends is really lovely. Yeah, they seem like sort of loyal to each other and not jealous of each other. And even though they sort of have, like, sometimes they will argue or have like personality clashes, but they sort of have each other's back. And I was like, that's actually really nice to read about. So I thought that was cool. I guess I really should have read one that was set in the hometown the girls live in, because that would have been more representative of the series. But this was just one that I had here, and I think I found it somewhere. I don't know. So yeah, I didn't love the writing that much, honestly. Some of these series from this era were really about like banging out books regularly, and they have a bit of a hack commercial, get it done style to them, which it's fine. It's kind of part of the charm of reading them now, honestly, is that style and just sort of the making fun of them, or just sort of, I'm going to say how bad they are, but I kind of mean that in a loving way. I mean, it's why librarians hated them back in the day. In this case, it's not bad, but there was a lot of just describing the holiday, and when that was happening, it just sort of reminded me of that. If you've ever had one of those boring work colleagues who just corners you and drones on about all the details of their last trip away. Like, it's just detail and description, and it's sort of like, yeah, okay, fine, Yeah, it's just description. And I feel like maybe it was even put in to pad out the story to make it the right number of pages. But, maybe that was interesting to 80s, 90s kids, though. I don't know. The actual dramatic parts and the plot were pretty fun. They felt like they were sort of better written. And those were most of the bits I sort of talked to you guys about. So, yeah. Did you read, or do you remember this series? I know I read at least one of these when I was a kid, but I don't remember anything about them. Like, I mean, I didn't. I think I sort of remembered that there was 4 friends and they'd have sleepovers, which I guess kind of sums up the series. But yeah, I know I didn't read this one before, but I did get some nice nostalgic feels about sleepovers that at that age while reading. Some nice memories. Did you love sleepovers as a kid? Any funny stories about what you got up to? Loved this series? I think I was too mean about Kate. Tell me in the comments. And yeah, thank you for watching. And I'll be back again with another 80s or 90s book from one of the many series of the era soon. You can check out some of my other videos. I also have another channel and socials, so you can find links below if you want more of that. And if you want to hang out again, remember to like and subscribe. And you can always leave a comment, let me know what you thought, or let me know what else you might want to see. Thank you.